And we are, oh gosh.
You have a voice crack like me, man.
I know. And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening. Good sir.
Blake, I have to bring up one of our listeners made my Friday night. You know the interaction that I'm referring to. Bayou Chubbs tweeted out one of the funniest things that I've seen, that he's now going to be doing post-show fight analysis. He's going to pick a winner for who wins every single argument that we do on the show. I thought that was pretty funny. I don't think you were as entertained.
Chubbs didn't win the argument. All right, Chubbs is wrong.
Okay, obviously you're going to say that you won the argument.
He doesn't like me sometimes. I mean, he's an LSU guy. He doesn't like me sometimes. You didn't win the argument. I mean, Joe.
I mean, we had a couple of people chime in and say that they thought I had a better argument.
If he was as big of a hire as you said he was, okay, the kids wouldn't be hitting the portal. Isaiah Bond would not be going to Texas right now.
Guys were going to want to – Nick Saban. Guys went to Alabama to play for Nick Saban, the greatest coach in college football history. I don't think it's unexpected that they wanted to leave and to look for another opportunity, because the guy that they thought was going to be coaching them their whole career left. There's a pretty stark difference between the two. Well, we'll need to get an analysis on this argument, this fight, on who won this fight. I don't know, I just thought it was funny, though.
I'm sure we'll have a little bit of an argument about Cam Ward, who declared for the draft. I'm just going to state the obvious. Feels like Miami paid him, okay, to be a quarterback. But Cam Ward, the Washington State quarterback, is going to Miami. We'll touch on that. Obviously, the big news of the day, Jedd Fisch from Arizona going to Washington, a 7-year deal worth $7.75 million per year. So Washington is not playing around, going and getting a really good head coach and Jedd Fisch. And we'll talk a little bit about the transfer portal as well.
Yeah, the Jedd Fisch news, I think, is going to really dominate our discussion today. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a ton of uncertainty on the direction that Washington was going to go in. And frankly, and I think that we're both on the same page here, this is how you recover. This is a hell of a pivot to be able to pluck a guy like that from Arizona, not too far away, that knows how to recruit the region, has a lot of ties to. He coached with the Rams. He was at UCLA, and then he was at Arizona most recently. He is a great, fantastic fit, and his success, his turnaround at Arizona, I think that he can stop the bleeding a little bit and keep the direction going forward for Washington.
We also have a request about talking about TRob going to Georgia, the DB's coach from Alabama. We'll add that to the list, as TRob is heading to be the co-defensive coordinator at Georgia. Will Muschamp stepping down and being in the
weird to me.
Role. I don't think it's really. I just don't think guys like his age, hey man, his son's on the team. What's he gonna do? He's not calling plays. I mean, he's there to help Kirby, which he can be on the sidelines helping Kirby any damn way.
How old is Muschamp's 52? Yeah,
but he's been in college football and been coaching for over 20 plus years. You could tell on the sidelines, man. Sometimes he looks tired. I think that role for me only look. I don't think it really changes anything. I think you're giving a title to TRob, and I think that he's only there to be the right-hand man to Kirby. That's it. Like, there's not really that's what he's there for, Joe. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but he's not going to Joe, they're not going to give him a pay cut. I mean,
no, obviously not. And it's a backwards move in his career, and we know that he's a great defensive mind. And as you're saying, I don't believe he was the one who was calling the plays.
I think his son's going to Vandy too. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but his son's.
Yeah, it just feels a little weird. I think I would have, not from what you're talking about. It just feels a little odd. I just would have thought that he would have ended up somewhere else, or maybe would have maintain that role. Maybe he takes a DC job next time around, and he understands that it's time to let somebody else take over that role, and that he'll never be the sole defensive coordinator at Georgia. So it's not really worth trying to fight for that opportunity.
I agree. We'll add that and talk about that as well. Got lots and lots to get into. I will hit on Kalen DeBoer, kind of like our final thoughts on, he had his opening press conference. I know Alabama fans are really excited. Kind of went after me a little bit in the comments. Not really as bad as I thought that they would, but just going after me a little bit, saying how do you know that he's not going to live up to Saban? Because nobody's living up to Saban.
Yeah, that's the weird angle to disagree with you on. It's like
that's the reason. Like, they were literally in the comments arguing me. Joe, what did I say? I said I think he can have multiple 10-win seasons at Alabama. I don't think it's a bad hire. I think that fan base at times is highly unrealistic about where this guy can bring them.
Right. I don't admit this a lot, but we have a lot of really good discussions. Like, that was a really good balanced discussion, in my opinion, because we had two different opinions and we had two different sides, but we found some agreement on some of that stuff. But I don't know, I just thought it was really weird. Like, you're talking about the people that were chiming in, instead of saying like, well, DeBoer's done this, and this is why he'll work, blah, blah, blah. It was just not a lot of reasons provided. Just like, how would you know? Well, that's the whole point of the show. We're here to speculate. We're here to guess.
I just think when you have multiple weeks in the SEC and you're not in the pack, the Dallas Cowboys are currently, as we are live, getting their cheeks clapped. There are going to be times where teams that slip up, that have no business beating you, that will do that, right? I mean, this is when you go in, week out in this conference, that's what happens. But we'll give our final thoughts on that. And people just, again, think I thought it was a horrible hire. I don't think it's a horrible hire. I think he'd be 30-9 in 3 seasons, and everybody, it would be like, oh, he's not, he's
that's
not doing as good, right?
That's
so
the point.
God bless everything. All right, tons and tons to get into. Everybody do us a favor, though, by hitting the like and share to all of those social media groups, share to all of those social media pages. Wherever you're watching us or you're listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell. If you're listening to us on the podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. Joe, let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. Kalen DeBoer, Jedd Fisch, little switcheroo. See, there's always that trickle effect, Joe. We got tons to talk about with that. Florida State, killing it in the portal. We'll talk about that at the end of the show, and TRob to Georgia. So lots and lots to get to. Stay with us. We're right back. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. We're back. All right. Alabama isn't. Now I got.
Is that what we're going to start doing? Is that what we're going to start doing?
I'm going to take shots at them until they prove that to everybody that they could be Alabama yet again. Joe, let's give our final thoughts really quickly on Kalen DeBoer. He did do his press conference at Alabama this past week. Thought he said a lot of great things. Look, I never go by winning or losing the press conference, right? Mainly due to the fact I remember who's the guy at Philly, the Eagles.
Sirianni.
Remember how awful his opening press conference was? And everybody's like, this guy's never going to win a game. Well, within 2 years, he had him into a Super Bowl. You can win any opening press conference you want. I thought he was sincere. I thought he talked about why he wanted to be there. I think he talked about the challenges of replacing Nick Saban. And I think it goes to show, Joe, a lot of times, too, with coaches is this. When we always say what makes coaches tick, Kalen DeBoer is an alpha dude. Okay, he's an alpha male. He doesn't think the way that some people do. He thinks, you know what, shit, I can go to Alabama and win just as good as anybody else. I know that I can win, okay? I've won everywhere I've been. He even somewhat kind of, brought that up a little bit. For me, okay, I think it's going to take him some time. His number one weapon on the outside just committed to Texas and Isaiah Bond. He's got a lot of good pieces. He's got a lot of good offensive linemen that are on that team. Let's see what happens, okay, at least the next month. Players that he brings in, maybe some guys from the portal. Let's see what he does. I do think it's an interesting dynamic that I'm going to be following. He brought up Nick Saban being there and being able to lean on him about this team and about being the head coach at Alabama. Don't know how I feel about that yet. I just don't. But I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic. Let's see how he transitions here from Washington. Because, look, man, Seattle to Tuscaloosa, it is night and day different. Night and day different.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's a huge difference, and there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. My just biggest thing after having the weekend to really sit in on this and just kind of think about this is a very high floor hire. This is a hire, in my opinion, that he's going to coach really well in games and he's going to prepare his team in games. What is always going to leave so many questions for us is the recruiting aspect of things. And if he's able to recruit the current roster just to stick around and to stay and not to bail on the team heading into the 2024 season. Because he's such an in-game coach, and this isn't like a guy like Marcus Freeman, who we've watched is still learning on the job, or somebody like Mario Cristobal, who's notoriously a terrible in-game decision maker. He is going to be able to win games, and even if maybe they're having a lesser year, be able to pull off wins that they're not supposed to. Maybe he can knock off an LSU or a Georgia when those opposing teams are favored, because he's just such a good offensive mind. But because it's so high floor, the ceiling might not be as exciting. And that's why I think Alabama fans need to be realistic on the expectations here. There's a possibility for the next 3 years that they're stuck at that 10-win number, that they can't really get over that 10-win number. And just because they're stuck there doesn't mean that this program's going backwards. It's going to take time for a guy like Kalen DeBoer, who hasn't been a head coach for very long, to get settled in and to figure out how to run this program to get them to a national championship level. And you just got to hope that when things really start clicking, that the NFL doesn't start calling him, because that is going to happen. It always happens with any of these big coaches at these big programs that are getting their first opportunities as head coaches. Final other piece to this too, I think it's great that Ryan Grubb is coming with him. I still believe that he needs to go and bring guys that were assistant coaches in the SEC from other regions to help recruit. But Ryan Grubb is going to be huge for them recruiting the quarterback position, the receiver position, any of the offensive positions, for them to take that next step. It's very funny that this is how Ryan Grubb ended up in Tuscaloosa. It wasn't last year. Took Kalen DeBoer to bring him there.
Off topic, in topic. You think Will Rogers goes there?
I don't think he should. I mean, I don't think he'll play. I really don't think that he'll play, because if Jalen Milroe's not the guy, there's plenty of other quarterbacks on there.
Julian Sayin be the guy.
He's too young. A true freshman at Alabama. When was the last time that happened?
You know who it was? They've had two. Jalen and Tua. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think Ty Simpson has the skill set to actually play in this offense. He did not fit with what Tommy Rees needed, but he fits with what DeBoer and Grubb are looking for in a quarterback. But right. I really don't think that Will Rogers would start. He's like the fourth best guy in that quarterback room.
All I'm going to say is this. I saw a coach who could not adjust well enough in game against a very physical and tough defense. What do you think that you see every week here?
Good point.
Again, Bama fans, I am not trying to poo-poo on Kalen DeBoer. Joe, think that he will get to multiple 10-win seasons there, okay? That he has that potential to do that. Again, I literally just saw a team that is built like an SEC team, built like Georgia. Michigan's more built like Georgia than anybody in the country, okay? they're two peas in a pod on how they build their team. Tough on both lines of scrimmage, okay? Dudes that can play on the outside, really good DBs. Who does that sound like? You would not know. If I told you that, you could pick two schools, that Michigan, that being Georgia. My only question is, Joe, I questioned at times, and people will remember this. I questioned how would Brian Kelly, when he went to LSU, how do you adjust playing in a conference like the SEC every week? I do think that Brian Kelly, though, did have more experience of facing the SEC. I think, what was it, Georgia, Joe, that came to South and lost by a point, faced multiple times, multiple teams in the playoff. He knew what he had to do to get there. Kalen DeBoer has not been in that experience. And I don't think, and again, I know that they got the A on their chest. I know that logo means a lot to a lot of people. But Joe, they couldn't keep their top defensive assistant. Like they're literally their top defensive assistant got one phone call from Kirby. Stay with me for just a
minute. How much? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. You mean to tell me that Nick couldn't tell TRob, hey, listen, I'm going to work out a deal for you here to be the DC or a co-DC?
I don't know. I think the timing's tough. I think that Kirby just moved really freaking quick, and
Kirby knew. You saw that video at the SEC championship game where Kirby's getting all teary-eyed. He tells Saban, "Thank you for everything you've done for me." That's BS. Nick knew.
Well,
all of them knew.
I'm just saying that there probably was a commotion with everything going on, and nobody was paying attention to think, hey, let's make sure that the key important current staff members don't leave, and he did.
How do you not? Joe, you got Nick Saban interviewing – hold on. You got Nick Saban interviewing assistant coaches at 3:55 per him. Okay. Per him, before he goes and tells his entire team and coaching staff that he's retiring. First off, that's bullshit. Not the interviewing people. Let me tell you what I think happened. He told him he was gone, okay, and they asked Saban to start helping him build the staff. I 1,000% agree.
Yeah, that's probably happening. Wait. We did a whole segment before the retirement, though, about who the next DC was going to be, and we did talk about TRob, but we mostly mentioned other people. So it didn't even seem like TRob was necessarily in the running to be the top DC candidate anyways.
Well,
so that's probably why he jumped. He took much more certainty. He probably didn't want to sit around and wait for DeBoer to get approval or give approval.
Well,
but so I want to add this to what you're saying too. Part of why I think that Alabama fans have to temper their expectations to start. DeBoer comes in with a lot more question marks because of a couple areas of consistency. The way that he played the national championship game, the way that they've played in a couple of games this year, the recruiting aspect of things. When Nick came in, there were no question marks. Everybody knew that he was a great coach. The biggest question mark is if he was willing to leave the Miami Dolphins. That was the question mark. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but there were question marks when he first got there and went 7-6.
Championship winning coach, though. You kind of knew that he's, been around.
To people who don't know, TRob is Travarius Robinson. He was the corners coach or DB's coach at Bama. We'll get to him in just a minute. But look, again, just those are my final thoughts. I think it's a little unorganized, and I thought that the way that – let me tell you what I thought, Joe. I thought when Saban left, things would be so organized and the bow would be so perfect when he left that because he's so detail-oriented, it comes out of left field like, something feels off to me about all of this. It's all I'm going to say. It's something feels off, and we'll see if Kalen DeBoer can overcome the offness.
Okay.
All right. But Washington does have their head coach, Joe, being reported by Pete Thamel, Brett McMurphy, and others, that Jedd Fisch, the Arizona head coach, is now taking his talents to Seattle, to Washington, a 7-year, $7.75 million deal per Pete Thamel. Joe, your initial thoughts. Now, before we get to this, Just remember the entire season. Your boy was on the Arizona Wildcat train.
Okay.
Don't come in here poo-pooing
shit
on Jedd Fisch. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, but I recall Blake was the biggest Jedd Fisch Arizona hater, and he's going to continue to hate Washington. I'm joking. It's a joke. I love this hire, and I think to turn around after you lost your head coach who was turning this program into a brilliant direction, and after all that time of trying to figure out who that next guy was, and you finally found it with DeBoer to sit in the circumstance. I have a lot of Washington fans that listen to the show that were in my DMs that were, man, this sucks. This really sucks. I was talking to a few different people.
Washington fan now.
Apparently, it's really quite funny. But to pluck a guy from his current institution that's not that far off in terms of name recognition, to be able to steal Jedd Fisch for your team is massive. And the biggest reason why is because he is considered to be that next guy in next year's cycle that would have been considered for a lot of big openings. You lock him down for a 7-year deal that's going to make it really hard for another team to buy him out unless they're absolutely bonkers, batshit crazy, which there could be a school in particular that's willing to do something dumb like that. Mm-hmm. He is a fantastic coach. He has done some amazing things at Arizona. I think that to make that transition is going to be very seamless. I don't think that they suffer much of a drop-off. And I think that Noah Fafita, his starting quarterback, and McMillan, one of their top receivers, are probably going to be in consideration to head there, if not go to other programs. My only concern, Jedd Fisch is a Florida alum. And Florida is speculated to be firing Billy Napier if things don't turn around this upcoming season. Right. A lot of Florida fans are calling dibs on this guy. And I would be a little bit fearful that Florida doesn't just say F it and throw a bunch of money at it to go get Jedd Fisch. That's what I'm a little fearful of.
He won 9 games at Arizona.
10.
Or 10. Yeah, I'm forgetting about the bowl game. Thank you. 10 games at Arizona. Look how good they got. Joe, and look how good they got from the loss at Mississippi. Joe, this is a 10-win team that lost to Mississippi State last year. That's how good of a developmental coach that he is. You know how much I love Jedd Fisch. Okay? I don't like using the word home run hires. Okay? I think you can have home run hires easily as position coaches. As head coaches, I do not think so. I don't want to go there. I think this is the best hire that they can make right now is Jedd Fisch. I know that when people who don't know who he is will look and say he's 16-21 as a head coach, they won't look at the fine details. They'll do the casual take. Oh, he's 16-21. And tomorrow morning when the national media is talking about this, they'll say he's 16-21. What are they doing? Now, I don't think he was their first option. I think Lance Leipold was their first option. But regardless, you landed and hit on a really damn good head coach. I do think it's going to be a little bit different for him, just like it would have been for Kalen DeBoer going into the Big Ten. Everybody's transitioning to Washington. One thing that I thought about, Joe, that I think that I'm going to keep my eye on with the Huskies, it's one thing for the school and the university to transition in a period with the head coach that just got them to a national title. It's something completely different when everybody's having to go through a transition and now you're moving into a different conference. I do think that it's going to be a little bit tougher on him than some people think it will be, but look what he built at Arizona.
Right.
So, did you see the Cole Kublik interview at the end? He took a kid that was a walk-on, that was homeless, told him that he would develop him, make him into an NFL draft pick. He's doing this all over Arizona. All over Arizona. I think it's the best hire that Washington could have made. Kudos to them. It's a really damn strong hire. The only question that I will ask is or think that maybe Fisch could do better than DeBoer. I do think that he's going to recruit better there.
Oh, absolutely. I actually really do think that there's a lot of truth to that.
Which makes them maybe a little bit more dangerous from a sustained look, I think Kalen DeBoer would have been completely fine in the Big Ten. No question. I do think Fisch gives them a little bit of, hey, man, at least he knows he can come in here and recruit. Because, Joe, look what he's doing in Arizona.
A lot of people forget that Elijah Rushing, who ended up flipping to Oregon, committed to Arizona for 1 point. And I know that that's like, well, what are you giving him a pat on the back for getting a kid to commit that ended up flipping? He's a 5-star. When was the last time a 5-star even considered going to Arizona? It does not happen. Most of the guys that they get are 3-stars that end up developing into really good players. No Fafita, 3-star that turned into a really good, high-level starting quarterback that played his ass off as a redshirt freshman. There is so much evidence to show that he can be a good recruiter. He just didn't have the resources. He didn't have the attraction of saying we're winning here yet because he hadn't done it yet. So I think we talked about on the show that we were like, what the hell? This kid committed to Arizona, and that was before they started playing well. So I think there's absolutely truth to the fact that he can turn this around and be a really good recruiter at Washington. There's actually some pretty good recruits in that Seattle area. There's occasionally some 4 or 5-star kids that come out of that region, and he can recruit that northwest area very, very well. And he could be that hot spot, that hotbed for all those players to choose to go to.
Fisch has been around a lot of big-time quality head coaches too, Joe. Look, I mean, I remember when Fisch was the OC at Jacksonville in 2013, 2014, and he was the QB's coach in 2010 with Seattle. Look, he's been around and done a lot of big-time things with a lot of quarterbacks. I think he could bring in a lot. Look, I think offensively, they might not look the same. Offense, they will be fine because Jedd Fisch is a really bright offensive mind. He's been with the Patriots. He's been with McVay with the Rams. I remember the interview of when Sean McVay was asked about Jedd Fisch being hired at Arizona. Said that he was probably one of the brightest or best offensive coaches that he'd ever been around. So it's a big-time hire. You got a lot of people like Belichick, McVay, all these people talking about how great of a coach he is. I think that's too broad of a scale. Like you got from McVay to Belichick. When does Belichick ever give a compliment to anybody ever? Right? So
never.
So you look at that and say, oh, okay, well, he went out of his way to go outside of his personality to talk about it. I think it's a big time. Joe, just very quickly, Washington did just make this official. So if you're watching the clip, their AD just tweeted out a video of him being at Jedd Fisch's house and him signing the contract. So that is officially done and clear. Any final thoughts on this move?
No, I'm curious to see the biggest thing, and I think we're going to end up talking about this in the next week and a half. How does this transition happen? And does he pull a bunch of guys from Arizona with him? Do a lot of guys at Arizona end up hopping on the market to go to Washington and then end up getting yanked away to a bigger program? I'm really curious to see what happens with Fafita. I think that, and Jane DeLora, both the quarterbacks that were at that program. So there's a lot that can happen.
I agree with our buddy Josh Pate on this. He said that there are players on Arizona's team right now that make another team a playoff contender. Okay.
Especially McMillan.
That's who he's talking about. I mean, like, that's exactly who he's talking about. I agree with you. Let's see what happens there. And maybe he does bring those guys to Washington. And I will say this, because I said it with DeBoer. I think it's only fair I say it with Fisch. In today's game, it's an NIL world. How quickly can you get to boosters and how quickly can you get this NIL game rolling at your current school is always going to be a very big thing. A couple of super chats here, Joe. Charles Sutherland with the $199 super chat says, great show. Go Dogs. Good to have you in here with us, Charles. And Elks, always gotten Michigan on the mind, says, here's some money for Wade to buy a brain or glasses. I guess Wade's in the chat. Says Michigan didn't cheat. Come on now. You are either stupid or in denial. Guys, let's be kind to one another. You know, Jesus said in the good book, love thy neighbor as thyself.
I disagree. I like that everyone fights with each other in the comments. I think it's hilarious.
Look,
you
know what's so funny?
But it's kind of like like your parents are fighting, then expecting your kids not to fight with one another. Man, if we're setting the tone, whatever.
You know what's so funny? I will go. So I check all of our stuff before I go to sleep every night. Okay, like how much is just to kind of get a recap of the day or whatever. It never fails. Every morning when I wake up, there's fights going on in our chat. like your mama's a hoe. Oh, your mama's got toe jam. I'm like, Jesus.
I love our listeners.
Rails. Yeah.
I love our listeners.
Okay. You want to get to Cameron Ward next? Or
should we TRob really quick?
Yeah, let's do TRob really quick. Because since we're on the coaches, it makes the most sense to do that. Okay, so over the weekend, Joe, some massive news came out. Travarius Robinson, aka TRob, the DB coach from Alabama, is now a co-DC at Georgia. Joe, you know what the first thing I thought about when I saw that this happened? The rich get richer, because they already have a great DB room. They're going to continue to recruit really well. TRob is considered one of, if not the best, one of the best DB coaches in the country. The rich got so much richer now that he is a co-DC. I do think that there's a little bit of title to that, right? Meaning, I don't want to say that he you're doing that just to get him to come over and give him that title just because. I don't think he calls plays. I do think he's got some maybe input on the secondary, but this also could be too, Joe, Nick calling up Kirby and saying, hey, you got to take TRob. Like, you got to take TRob. Can you make him a co-DC? And Kirby doing it. There's so many things that could have happened here. Regardless, I talked about I don't like home run hires or saying they're home run hires ever unless it's assistants. Joe, this is a home run hire. You cannot get a better DB coach in the transition into the place that he's going than right now. Joe, he's going to have 6 5-stars to play with. Oh, so nothing changes for him. He just did that at Alabama. We know what we've seen with him. Look at Kool-Aid. Look at Tyrion Arnold, Trey Amos, okay, this past year. Joe, all he does is put really good secondaries together. What's he going to do at Georgia now that they've recruited at such a high level? I think it's a great hire.
Well, and I also look at even further back when he was at South Carolina, the development of J.C. Horn, who was a very athletic player that turned into a complete stud. And then Kingsley Enagbare is another player that was really good for him when he was running that defense. He is a brilliant, brilliant coach. I think it's a testament to his talent level and his capabilities that he was Alabama's DB coach, and the connection that we know that Nick Saban has to defensive backs and developing them. He's only going to go with guys that he sees as eventually, stars in the industry, eventually long-term impactful coaches. I don't know a ton of former Alabama corner coaches off the top of my head, but to know that what he has done in Alabama, to see the development of these guys turn into first rounders, stepping into a little bit more of a responsibility as the co-DC. I doubt he calls plays. I don't know. I feel like Glenn Schumann's going to probably still be calling plays. And heck, we don't know who DeBoer is hiring as his defensive coordinator. Maybe he tries to coax Schumann into coming and being the full-time DC and having full control. Travarius Robinson could maybe end up being the guy who's calling these plays for this Georgia defense. But as you've said, his background, where he's coming from, his connections to Saban, this is one of the best hires that you could make. And he was bound to end up somewhere as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and look, was a DC from 2016 to 2020 at South Carolina, has had a lot of good secondaries. Like you mentioned, was at Miami for a year, been in Alabama, now at Georgia. Joe, he was at Auburn. He's been at Florida. I mean, he's been everywhere. He was a grad assistant at Auburn where he played. So he knows the SEC footprint. I will be real with you. I think he's a star in the making. Okay, yeah. He's a younger guy. It would not be surprising to me. Kirby just had God, Lord, forgive me. The new Syracuse head coach. Correct me. What's his name again? I know the chat will correct me, but he just had an assistant coach now be the head coach at Syracuse.
Oh my God. Why
Why?
am I blanking on his
Yeah,
name? We talked so much about it. Wait 1 second.
Regardless, he is a superstar in the making.
Fran Brown.
Fran Brown, thank you. I don't I do think that TRob could be a head coach really soon. And look, he's been in that SEC footprint. So good for Kirby and good for them. All right. Want to move on to this Cam Ward thing? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Before we move on to Cam Ward going to Miami, let's talk about our good friends over at Home Field Apparel. Guys, I think Joe's wearing one of his shirts. I wear mine.
No, I'm not. This is not Home Field. I'm cheating.
You're fired. All right. Regardless, we wear our gear on here all the time. I tell you about it. Dude, it feels great. The material is amazing. Relatively cheap. So you need to go over to Home Field Apparel. Use that promo code Ruffino Joe at checkout. That's RUFFINO Joe, and you'll get 50% off of that order. Let's talk about them very quickly. We come back. Cam Ward to Miami. We discuss it next.
Ruffino and Joe Show is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan, maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. Whatever it is, even Idaho, they have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code Ruffino Joe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO Ruffino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
A little ironic, Joe, that we play that out of the open for a segment talking about Cam Ward, because we all thought that Cam Ward was going to declare for the NFL draft. So much so, you thought that he could potentially push himself into a late first-round pick. If I'm quoting you wrong, please tell me.
No, that is correct. I'm very optimistic on his talent. Very, very explosive quarterback, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But it was on the table. But part of what was kind of talked about in the scouting community is what he pulled off. Him declaring was clearly a way to try and get more money out of Miami.
100% how I feel. You know, like when I saw him commit to the Hurricanes, I just quote tweeted like, huh? You know, like, I mean, look, he strong-armed him to get more money. Good for him. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Okay, right.
I mean, look, you played the game. Everybody plays the game. Good on you. Let's talk about it on the field. Now, look, just in case you didn't know, I do think that Cam Ward, a guy who, by the way, played against my alma mater when he was at Incarnate Word, I think Cam Ward's a good quarterback. Joe, I do question, one thing. I do think he's got a good OC in Miami. Why do I feel like that going to Miami is, I'm not going to say ruin him, but I've seen a guy like Justin Herbert play for Mario Cristobal and not live up to some of the hype and potential that he could play in. Are we going to have the same type of thing here with Cam Ward? Now, they're recruiting at a ridiculous level. Ridiculous. I do think that Cam Ward has a better overall team around him. I don't know if he's got a better coaching staff around him, though.
Yeah, okay, look, I understand what you're saying. Yes, Mario Cristobal did completely misuse Justin Herbert.
Has he not going to completely misuse a Cam Ward?
It's potentially possible, and I would hope that there is less meddling by Mario Cristobal, which it seems like he's been doing a little bit less. At the end of the day, Cam Ward was, without a doubt, no debate, the best quarterback that could have entered the portal and that could have transferred somewhere and took over a new team. He is a guy that immediately raises the talent level of your offense because he's very mobile. He can expand the pocket, which in modern college football, sometimes offensive line play is not great. So you need a guy that can move around. Their offensive line has been fantastic because Mario Cristobal is an offensive minded guy, being a former offensive lineman. So we're not too worried there. He can stretch the field. His arm talent's in the top 5 in college football. It might even be higher than that. The way that the ball flies off his hand is going to be such a challenge for opposing teams to have to deal with. I spent all of this season crapping on Tyler Van Dyke and giving him shit. This is light years of a difference in talent that you're going to be able to use with Cam Ward. And I think the biggest evidence is the fact that he took Incarnate Word, which was a no-name college football program, and brought them to the playoff and put up ridiculously gaudy numbers. And then he shows up at Washington State and he takes a team that probably would have been in the bottom of the Pac-12 and competes and plays close down to the wire with most of the best teams in the Pac-12 and completely improves their outlook on the season. Cam Ward is going to potentially make Miami a ranked team for the entirety of 2023. I'm not going to go as far as say that they are, or 2024. I'm not going to go as far as say that this is a playoff team now that you've added Cam Ward, because there's a lot of other holes that need to get figured out. But his impact, his talent level will make this offense so much better.
Can he take a knee?
I would hope so. That's not up to him.
Very true. Here's the only knock that I've had on Cam Ward ever, even when he was at Incarnate Word. He's too streaky, either good, or too streaky, either bad. You know, like Joe, I vehemently remember the Cal loss. Okay, like they went and played Cal. I think you remember it. Joe, he threw the ball 59 times that day. He only completed 57% of his passes. He was missing wide open dudes very badly. There have been games in Cam Ward's career that he's underperformed. Now, I look at Washington, 32 of 48. I know that he had 3 touchdowns. He had 2 very, very, very bad interceptions against a secondary that, let's call it what it is, Joe, was cheeks.
Yeah.
All right. I think Cam Ward has so many intangibles. I think he's a really, really good quarterback. I don't think that he takes them to that next level. I do think they're a 9-10 win. He can get them to a 9-10 win team. That's it. Like, that's where I am with Cam Ward. He's just had so many times in his career where he's been streaky that is so bad, and he turns the ball over, that Joe, with the mixture of me seeing a guy like Mario Cristobal mismanage things, mismanage players, and the clock and in-game adjustments, I don't know how I feel about this. I do think Cam Ward was one of the best quarterbacks in the portal. He might be the best quarterback in the portal. But I have to see Mario Cristobal, Cam Ward in Miami start succeeding before I say I don't have questions.
I will say that the offensive coordinator situation, quarterback coach situation is a little bit better than what was at Oregon. I like Shannon Dawson. I think Shannon Dawson's underrated.
Dawson was the running backs coach when I was being recruited to go to Southeastern. Love him to death. I don't think that has anything. Shannon's offense has nothing to do with, okay, has nothing to, I think that's Cristobal meddling.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Because look, I've been around him.
Yeah.
Joe, like, if there's anybody that you can listen to on a podcast or show, Joe, I think it was 2005, 2004, 2005.
2004 was when he was at Southeastern.
Okay.
That's what it says.
I just spitting it off.
No,
I'm telling you.
Right.
I'm telling you. This is Cristobal meddling with him. I know the system and the tree that Shannon comes off of. This ain't what he's supposed to be running. So
that's a good point.
All I'm saying I've seen it happen in the past with Justin Herbert. I'm very intrigued to see if Cristobal takes a step back and just go recruit. Be Orgeron. Be Ed. Go recruit your ass off. Let all your assistants coach and stay out of the meddling. Stay out of it because you can get the dudes there. If you let Cam Ward and Shannon start cooking, Joe, Miami is going to be, wait for it.
We're back.
Could be a playoff team.
I'm a little bit more optimistic than you that this offense can click a little bit because I saw what Miami's offense did before Tyler Van Dyke decided to start being Tyler Van Dyke again and started playing like dog shit. That Texas A&M game, I think, is a clear reflection of what the offense was supposed to be. It was supposed to be get the ball out quick, deliver to your guys in space, let those athletes cook, let them make plays after the catch. And then there was just such a line of regression because they couldn't get Tyler Van Dyke to play as good as he was supposed to, and they couldn't find that next guy. That was something that they couldn't control. It wasn't their fault that Tyler Van Dyke cannot make the right decisions for the offense to work. I think that Cam Ward is a much more cerebral player that will be able to make those decisions. Now, here's the other piece here. Their schedules
TVD though.
Oh, it's not even close.
It's so ridiculous.
Their schedule 2024 is easy as shit. Their hardest game. Okay, here's the whole schedule: Florida State, Florida A&M, Ball State, USF, Cal, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Duke, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse. So there's no SEC opponents except for Florida, which should be a win for them because
is that game in the swamp?
Yes.
Loss.
Okay. Well, the rest of these, I see two difficult matchups that they're going to more likely lose than win.
You think Syracuse and Florida State?
No, I think Louisville and Florida State are the two more losable games. So there's a 9-win season right there.
You can't lose. That's got to be your floor. You're going into year 3 of Mario Cristobal. You gotta get to working. You gotta get to cooking because Joe, if he has another mid-level year, he's in trouble. He's in serious trouble, and he should be. But maybe
he's got to get
him out of it. Maybe he can get him out of it.
Well, I'll tell you, before he committed, he was in some deep shit because Reese Poffenbarger from Albany was not going to get the job done. It's huge that they got
a little bit. You're just mad because he's got a weird last name.
He's okay. I also don't like Albany. I hated playing there.
Oh, so it's a personal thing.
No. It's not.
I just think that Cam Ward is too streaky. So when you talked about him working himself into a first-round pick, I didn't disagree with you at the time because that's just not my area of expertise. I'm not an NFL draft guy, even though I did tell you that Jaden Daniels would be a first-round pick, and you said if he would, I'd eat a hat. By the way, how's that going? How's that looking?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I've took like 7 screenshots. You can't even delete that without it, being knowledge. The only thing for me, Joe, is I'm going to say something you're going to vehemently disagree with. He has had moments at times where I'm not saying he looks like Van Dyke, okay, from a execution standpoint, but
he makes the same types of mistakes.
Makes the same type of mistakes sometimes, which would really worry me. Okay, now there's a flip side of that. I think he's got better weapons around him, even though I think the Kelly kid at Washington State, good Lord, it's not like Washington State didn't have dudes to throw to.
Yeah.
I will just continue to say throughout the entire offseason, I'm not going to switch up on this. I got to see it work before I start giving them a gold medal because it just Cristobal has not sold me on him being a good in-game coach, and Cam Ward is too streaky. That's it.
That's fair.
All right. You know what? Can we just go ahead and I wanted to do this last, but since we're talking about quarterbacks, can we just go ahead?
Should we just do the Florida State thing? Isn't super pressing. Should we just do that tomorrow so we're not rushing this?
About McCarthy?
No. Do the Florida State thing tomorrow, and do JJ today and just like actually have a conversation about this?
Oh, I thought we were only going to talk about JJ McCarthy for a minute, but let's go JJ McCarthy.
I'd rather not skip over it. I think this is huge news. I know you don't like talking about JJ McCarthy for some reason, but
it's just that I think all right, let's get into it.
Okay.
You just said to me that you think that I don't like talking about JJ McCarthy. You're right on that. Can I tell you why?
Sure.
I think he's mid. I think he's a mid quarterback. You know who I think he is? A more polished, more athletic Stetson Bennett.
I don't agree with that. I think. Wait.
All right, a minute. I actually don't.
Bullshit.
Hold on. I don't believe that. I wanted to see your reaction when I brought up Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, I almost lost my goddamn mind after all the foot. That was the antithesis of the show. This show started to become what it was because you and I started yelling at each other over Stetson Bennett because I argued he wasn't as impactful to the team. But let's not rehash that.
I will say this. I don't think that he had better games than Stetson Bennett in his career.
No, they used him even less than Stetson Bennett did. He didn't have to do anything.
Look, Joe, I'm going to be real with you. Yes, is it a big loss? Do I think JJ McCarthy has some big time potential in some areas? Yeah. He has been in big games where he's missed and done too many bad things. Joe, do you remember that national title game when he almost let Washington come back on him? You want to know why that happened? Because he's missing wide-ass open dudes. Now, JJ McCarthy declared for the NFL draft. Good on him. Maybe Harbaugh goes to the NFL. Maybe that's an indication, okay? Somebody's giving that kid bad news. Somebody is giving that kid bad advice.
Wait, okay.
No business going into the NFL draft. I know that's not what we want to talk about.
I know. I don't. This actually leads into my point, though. I don't disagree that he should not have declared. I think that he needed one more year to refine some things, and I've said it on the show that he needs to improve his decision making. He needs to improve some very small categories that could have turned him into a fringe first rounder into a guaranteed first round pick. You're right that yes, he probably shouldn't have done it. But from what I've heard, and I've talked to some people about this, the NFL is going to be a lot higher on him than the media is because he checks all of the stupid boxes that the NFL screws themselves into. And I keep comparing him to Daniel Jones. He's going to be Daniel Jones because he checks all the same boxes. Comes from a good academic school, smart kid, charismatic leader, big body, fits all the size profiles, can move well, has the big arm, and is a winner. But we're going to look past the dial-up noise, spinning wheel in his head with the inability to make quick decisions, incorrect decisions, ball placement. That stuff hasn't been great. I wanted him to go back to improve that stuff. And I really did believe that Michigan would have been in great hands next year with him being starting quarterback because physically, he's built like exactly what you want in an NFL quarterback. And if you gave him one more offseason, I think he could have taken that next step and really improved and been one of the better quarterbacks in college football and played at a higher level. He did improve from last year. He did. He did take a step forward. And I think that was on the table to happen this upcoming year. I think it sucks. And I think that the bigger red flag here is that you got guys like Roman Wilson declaring, Junior Colson declaring. I think that the minute Jim Harbaugh announces that he's taking whatever NFL job it is, whether it's going to be the Cowboys or it's going to be the Chargers, that there is going to be a floodgate opened that a lot of guys, if they don't retain any of the current staff and they all go with Harbaugh to the NFL, guys are going to get in the portal and guys are going to continue to declare for the NFL draft. And this could be a completely different Michigan team in 2024.
He's Zach Wilson without the MILFs.
That's what my co-host Ryan has said that a million times. He's the same.
Oh, really?
Thing. Yeah. Ryan Roberts says that.
Well, now you got two. He's Zach Wilson without the MILFs.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed by him. I'm just not. I think that, what I honestly, Joe, how many throws did he miss in multiple games that were high intensity?
A lot.
A lot. Joe, I'm old enough to remember from the first play from scrimmage against Alabama, if the dude's toes in, the first pass that he throws is a pick.
Yeah.
He does not make good decisions, which could lead me to ask the question, is it maybe a good thing he doesn't return from Michigan?
No, I'd see that. This is where I disagree.
I think the Orgy kid's got more upside.
We've never seen him play. He's gone out there and he's run Wildcat. I don't know what he's got in his bag. I don't know what he's capable of doing.
Why are you taking JJ McCarthy off the field for Orgy if you don't think that he's got a higher upside?
So many teams bring on a Wildcat quarterback.
But those teams bring in running backs to do it. They don't bring in a quarterback.
That's not true.
Name them.
Notre Dame did that for a whole season with Tyler Buckner.
Notre Dame, because neither one of them could throw.
Jack Cohn was great. Jack Cohn was one of the better quarterbacks we've had. He was better than Sam Hartman. And we still brought Tyler Buckner on.
You really think Orgy is Tyler Buckner who's going to play lacrosse? You really think that that's who he is?
No, I'm not making the comparison. I just think in college football, when you've got a big, strong athlete and you want to confuse a defense, you bring him into the game and you cause a little bit of a commotion. If you got a kid like that, you do it.
I'm just I don't think it's a big of a deal as you make it out.
Wait, but are you not worried about the angle that I brought up though, that there doesn't end up being some sort of?
All right, yeah, we can talk about that. Here's my thought on that. No.
Why?
Because Joe, they already knew. Okay, I would assume that players would have already known if Harbaugh was leaving or not, or had.
Well, that's why all these big important players are declaring for the NFL draft.
No, all of them are going to be draft picks. This isn't anything.
Ohio State just brought back a bunch of guys that had the same draft
they
projection
didn't win a
as
national
them.
Hold on, you wouldn't let me finish. Teams that win national titles historically have mass exodi of players. It happens to every one of them. Is exodi a word?
It can be.
Okay, well, I'm using it. They normally have a max exodus of players that hit the draft. Joe, they haven't. I mean, they had players that went to the draft last year and it didn't hurt them.
I mean, I don't.
You're trying to ask me without asking me. Do I think that Michigan's taking a step back? Yes, I do. Regardless if JJ McCarthy comes back or doesn't come back, it doesn't matter to me. I think they're taking a step back because they do have players that are leaving. Regardless, I think they would have taken a step back if some of those players would have come back because I think Harbaugh's gone. Like, that's what I ultimately believe. I don't think JJ McCarthy is the backbreaker that everybody and their mama today try to sell me on.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a backbreaking loss.
But the media is trying to sell because you got guys that went to Michigan like Schefter and Rich Eisen and Dave Portnoy. All of them are out here, cum guzzling over JJ McCarthy. Sorry for those two words, but it's all that came. They are. He's not good. He is not.
Well, yeah, no, we're good.
Joe, the good quarterbacks that we've seen in college football. What have they done? What have they done?
A lot more than JJ McCarthy.
A lot more than JJ McCarthy. And you know what else they do? They hit big-time passes in big-time games in big-time moments. Name a time that you said, damn, JJ McCarthy took that game over. I mean, I just have high.
Oh, he did that against Ohio State 2 years ago.
Joe, Donovan Edwards scored another touchdown on Ohio State about 5 minutes ago. He ran for 200 yards. Stop that. He had some deep passes. Okay, good for him. He didn't take it over.
I also don't know for sure if Alex Orgy ends up being the guy because they've got a lot of talented quarterbacks that they've recruited.
Isn't the Carr kid coming in?
No,
he's going to Notre Dame, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to Notre Dame.
Portal.
That's a damn shame. That's it. Oh, stop it.
I smell him going to the portal.
No, he's gonna start after Lincoln or not Lincoln. Riley Leonard is going to be a first round pick. and then CJ Carr will take over.
You Notre Dame homer. I just don't. I don't think. I actually like the orgy kid. I love watching massive orgies.
End the show. End the show. End the show. Jesus Christ.
Can we give the kid an NIL deal through our show, please?
For what? Just so we can bring him on and say orgy? Is that?
Yes.
I don't think we can afford him. I don't think we can afford to pay him.
You know what I want to say so bad? We got an orgy to the right. We got an orgy to the left. We have an orgy down the middle.
Yeah, you love orgies, man.
All right, and
should have called a day after that one, man. I don't even know where to go from that. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's a good thing we punted on the FSU stuff for tomorrow. Jesus Christ.
I mean,
who's the younger of the two of us? That's the real question.
Oh, dude. Elks with a $2 super chat says, so Michigan is having an orgy next year.
Look what you caused. This is the shit that you stir up.
All right. In all seriousness, to get us back on track.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't like JJ McCarthy. I just think he's a better Zach Wilson is all.
I don't disagree. I'm trying to use it as less of a him not coming back, because you're right. Orgy's a talented player. He's a very gifted athlete, and he could end up being a good quarterback. But I just don't totally know. It's less of me predicting that there's going to be a lot of people leaving, and just more of me saying, I don't know what's going to happen the minute that Harbaugh leaves, and it's already starting to.
We've had this discussion. We literally had this discussion. Remember, last Sunday, you and I had the discussion on, does Michigan run the Big Ten or not? Now, what did I say? No, because I still think that Ohio State has less question marks than Michigan does.
Ohio State has less question. Yes, absolutely. We talked about this pre-show that Ohio State was going. Ohio State, you're welcome, Elks, is going to beat Michigan next year. They're going to. They have brought back a tremendously talented roster.
I won't go that far because I don't know where Joe,
I'm making my pick right now. I'm making my pick.
Well, there is a possibility that Harbaugh comes back.
I think he's done. There have been too many indicate. If he was coming back, he wouldn't even be taking the meeting that he has with the Chargers.
Then why did he take it with the Vikings last year?
The rumor with that was that he did, and inevitably, that was 2 years ago. That inevitably they went.
Year.
No,
it was
Kevin O'Connell.
A year ago.
Kevin O'Connell was hired 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
They changed their mind and decided to go with O'Connell, so he was passed up on. I think that Harbaugh is a lot of teams' first choices. So he didn't come back saying like, "Oh, I changed my mind. I want to go back to Michigan." It was, "No, this fell through, and I'm going to stick around."
I don't think that. I mean, look. I know what you're asking, but like I've said last week, literally a week ago, Joe, when we had this discussion, no, no. The answer is no. They're not running the Big Ten. I mean, running the Big Ten on what? Your coach is leaving. The quarterback that got you to back-to-back, or didn't he start? Yeah, 3 straight playoffs.
He started the playoff game, but they were still rotating him and Cade McNamara.
So a quarterback that's played in 3 or had 3 playoff. In 3 years, had 3 playoff appearances. No, I don't think you're going to be better with. I mean, I just think, Joe, if Harbaugh is coming back, I would be like, okay, and I think they'd be fine. Then you have potentially a first-time head coach. No, like just because they have players leaving doesn't mean anything to me. It has everything to do with the head coach. Everything, like literally everything. That's it for me. Like that is the whole kit and caboodle. That's everything.
I wonder who they hire. We had this convo pre-show. And we're not going to do this right now, talk candidates, but they're kind of late to the party because DeBoer, who we said was.
Do you fire Harbaugh? What do you do?
Well, you got to just wait. You got to wait, and it sucks for them. But Now Fisch and DeBoer are off the table. Can you coerce Lance Leipold, which is hard to convince him?
He's about to sign an extension.
That's your best bet. Maybe Chris Kleiman at Kansas State is the guy you go after. I don't know, man.
Sharon Moore. I don't know.
I don't know. After we've talked about this, it just feels like Sharon Moore's gonna go to the NFL with Harbaugh.
Oh, well, then you got Mentor. You got Mike Elston, who's a defensive line coach. I mean, you could just promote the DC.
Oh, Elston's actually a good one.
Yeah, Elston's a Michigan guy.
That would be a good hire.
They have options. I mean, they have options. And I don't think that Sharon Moore, with all due respect to him, I don't think he's any better of a candidate than anybody on the defensive side of things.
No. I don't disagree. What I'm saying is all of the available big candidates that were standing head coaches that had head coaching experience are gone. They either just took a bigger extension somewhere else, were at their current school, or they left. So now we're in murky waters.
Yeah. Cowboys just got beaten. Everybody on Twitter's going nuts.
I see it. I mean, we're probably going to get an announcement that he gets fired.
To the Cowboys.
I can see it.
That would be kind of dangerous if I'm being honest. All right. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Joe, another great show. Sorry that I talked about all those orgies, but nevertheless, I think it was still a good show.
Yeah, great show. Thanks for bringing that back up.
See y'all tomorrow, guys. Peace.